Well, my next guest is watching all of these developments very, very closely. Republican Congressman from Texas, John Ratcliffe. Congressman, is it your sense, is it just an understanding among Republicans in both the House and Senate that tax reform is indeed coming this year, that it will happen this year?
I don't think we have that understanding, Neil. I'm more focused on the if as opposed to the when. I want to make certain that we get tax reform done. I think we've got an incredible opportunity for the first time in several decades to get major tax reform that will help 320 million Americans help their lives get better. So I want to make sure it happens. I'm less concerned about the timetable, and I think very clearly you see that we're off of the legislative calendar. The health care issue has taken us off of the timetable that we all had hoped that we would deal with this by August.
Do you regret that, Congressman, that timetable was altered for something that was far greater division within your party than it appears tax cuts are?
Yeah, I mean, Neil, I was ready to repeal and replace Obamacare 2 weeks ago. I'm ready to do it today, and I'll do it as soon as we get back from the August recess if we get the chance. I think it's unfortunate that we've gotten off of the timetable with respect to that, but you know, all you can do at this point is work hard to get it back on track, and we're doing that behind the scenes, and I'm optimistic that we'll still get a vote on a replacement plan for the Affordable Care Act sometime later this spring.
All right, and then it's onward to tax cuts, right? Best case scenario.
Absolutely.
All right. You mentioned if at the outset, Congressman. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but if you don't get it this year, is it fair to say the frustrations built for next year? Very hard to do that sort of thing, certainly in a midterm election year. What do you think?
Well, I do think that political momentum is important, and that's one of the reasons that I was concerned that the delay on the health care would have an impact on tax reform as well. I do think that these things are interrelated. So I am still optimistic that we can get tax reform done, in part, Neil, because unlike the Gorsuch nomination and unlike health care, when we're talking about tax reform, we can really expect some bipartisanship. Democrats agree that the corporate tax rate in this country is ridiculously high, and coming up on midterms in the Senate, they've got to defend 25 of 34 Senate seats, and so they have just as much incentive as Republicans do to reform our tax code.
Some of them, though, have been looking at the president's polling numbers, and a lot of them are convinced it's Republicans who are going to be up against the wall, not them. What do you say?
Well, I clearly think, you know, on a lot of these issues, you can't ignore the fact that the American people have put Republicans in charge of the House, the Senate, and the White House. And so ultimately, on these issues, it does come down to us. But I am optimistic that on the issue of tax reform, we'll see some Democrats who have their personal interests at stake in terms of getting reelected play ball with us on an issue that's important to the American people.
Congressman, thanks for taking the time. We appreciate it.
Always good to see you, Neil.